Stop using these dead subject lines everyone copies. Here's what actually gets opened after analyzing 1.2 million emails. Today I'm revealing the 5 subject lines that literally triple response rates. And I'm also going to show you the psychology behind why they work so you can create your own. Here's the brutal truth about cold email. You can have the perfect offer, compelling copy, and ideal prospects. But if your subject line fails, none of it matters. The subject line is the gatekeeper that determines whether your message gets opened or buried forever.
Look who else we got. Roosevelt, and Jefferson. Okay.
Most people overthink this. They try to be clever, mysterious, or make it all about themselves. But after studying what actually works across millions of emails, I can tell you exactly what gets results. Let me paint you a picture of what's happening right now. Your prospect wakes up, checks their phone, and sees 47 new emails. They're scrolling through the inbox while drinking their morning coffee, and they have maybe 2 seconds to decide whether your email is worth opening or if it's going straight to the trash. In those 2 seconds, your subject line is doing all the heavy lifting. It's not just competing against other cold emails, it's competing against urgent messages from their boss, invoices that need attention, meeting invites, and personal emails from friends and family.
All right, everyone, gird your loins.
Did someone eat an onion bagel?
Your subject line needs to cut through all of that noise and make their brain go, wait, this one looks different. This one might actually be worth my time. Most people completely miss this. They write subject lines like partnership opportunity or time for a quick chat or following up. And then they wonder why their open rates are stuck at a measly 15%. These subject lines are invisible. They're so generic that your prospect's brains literally doesn't register them as important.
Listen to this. Marcy comes over and she tells me that her ex-boyfriend was over late last night and yada, yada, yada. I'm really tired today.
The difference between a subject line that works and one that doesn't isn't about being clever or creative. It's about understanding how the human brain makes split-second decisions.
You take the blue pill, the story ends. You take the red pill, you stay in Wonderland. And I show you how deep the rabbit hole goes.
And once you understand that psychology, you can craft subject lines that feel irresistible to open. Now, before I reveal these 5 game-changing subject lines, here's why you should listen. We run cold email campaigns across multiple industries, and I've personally analyzed data from over 1.2 million subject lines to find the patterns that work. Let me be transparent about our setup. We use tools like Reply.io or AI Closure for campaign management, tracking everything obsessively. While our results aren't perfect, we've identified clear winners that consistently outperform generic approaches. I've seen companies go from 2% reply rates to 18% reply rates just by changing their subject lines. I have watched startups book 50% more sales calls by applying these psychological principles, and I've personally helped over 500 businesses transform their cold email results using exactly what I'm about to share with you. Look, the data doesn't lie. When you look at millions of emails across different industries, different target audiences, and different periods, certain patterns emerge. Certain psychological triggers work consistently regardless of what you're selling or who you're selling to. But here's what most people don't realize. The best subject lines aren't about tricks or hacks. They're about genuine human psychology. They work because they tap into fundamental decision-making processes that all of us have, whether or not we realize it. So let's dive into the 5 subject lines that change everything for us. I'm going to walk you through each one, explain exactly why it works, and give you the psychology behind it so that you can adapt these for your own campaigns. Subject line number 1. Quick question about their company or situation. This works because it triggers what psychologists call the curiosity gap.
What's in the box? What's in the fucking box?
Give me the gun.
He just told you.
Our brains are literally hardwired to seek closure on incomplete information. When you see quick question about, your brain immediately wants to know what the question is. The word quick is doing psychological heavy lifting here as well. It reduces what researchers call commitment anxiety, the fear that responding will lead to a long, time-consuming interaction. By promising that this is quick, you're removing a major barrier to engagement. But here's the key part, making it about them, not about you. About your company or about your situation taps into self-interest, which is one of the most powerful psychological drivers we have. People are naturally more interested in things that relate to them personally. This triggers something called the Zeigarnik effect. We remember incomplete tasks better than completed ones. Your prospect's brain literally cannot ignore an unfinished question. It creates a mental loop that stays open until they get the answer. In our testing, this format gets 67% higher open rates than generic pitches. But here's what's really interesting. It also gets high reply rates because the subject line sets up a conversational tone. When someone opens an email expecting a question, they're mentally prepared to provide an answer. The key is making sure your question is actually about something specific to their situation. Don't just say a quick question about your business. Say a quick question about your Q4 expansion plans, or quick question about your new product launch. The more specific you can be, the more it feels personal and relevant. Let me give you a real example of how this played out for us. We were working with a software company that was trying to reach the VP of sales at mid-sized companies. Their original subject line was sales automation solution for your team. Generic, product focused, boring. The open rate was 12%. We changed it to quick question about your Q4 sales hiring plans, and the open rate jumped up to 68%. Same audience, same sender, same everything else. The only difference was understanding what makes their brain want to click on that email. But this is where most people mess it up. They use this format, but then ask a generic question that could literally apply to everyone. The psychology only works if the question feels genuinely specific to them. You need to do enough research to ask something that shows that you understand their business, their challenges, and their timing.
Get out.
What?
Get out. I need to go to my mind palace.
The what?
He's not going to be doing much talking for a while. We may as well go.
If you just mass sending quick question about your business to everyone, you're missing the entire point. Subject line number 2. Can I help you solve a specific problem this quarter? This one is powerful because it doesn't feel like a sales email at all. It feels internal. Like it could be coming from someone on their team or a consultant they are already working with.
God, help me! Help me, Rod. Help me! Help you. Help me. Help you.
The quarterly time frame creates what I call gentle urgency. It's not buy now or the world ends kind of urgency. It's this is relevant to your current planning cycle urgency. Most businesses operate on quarterly cycles, so this immediately feels timely and relevant. But the real psychological magic happens with can I help you? These 4 words completely reframe the interaction. Instead of you being someone who wants something from them, you're positioning yourself as someone who wants to give something to them.
You're discounting what scouts have done for 150 years, even yourself?
Adapt or die.
This leverages what behavioral economists call the helper effect. People respond better to those offering assistance rather than pushing products. The question format engages the recipient's problem-solving mindset instead of the defensive, someone's trying to sell me something mindset. In our campaigns, this approach sees 40 to 55% higher reply rates than direct pitches. And the replies we get are different too. They're more collaborative, more detailed, and more likely to lead to actual conversations. The key is being specific about the problem. Don't say, can I help you with marketing this quarter? Say, can I help you scale your content production this quarter? Or can I help you improve your customer retention this quarter? The more specific the problem, the more it demonstrates that you understand their business. I've seen the subject line work especially well in B2B scenarios where you've done your homework and identified a clear challenge that they are facing. It works because it sounds like a solution showing up at exactly the right time. Think about it. When was the last time someone offered to help you solve a specific problem you were actually facing? It's rare, and when it happens, it feels almost too good to be true. That's exactly the psychological response you want to trigger. We had a client in the HR tech space who was struggling to get meetings with chief people officers. Their original approach was very product focused. Streamline your onboarding process with our platform. Crickets. We shifted to, can I help you reduce your time to productivity for new hires this quarter? Same value proposition, completely different framing. Instead of selling a product, they were offering to solve a real problem. The response rate went from 2% to 5%. The psychology here is deeper than it appears on the surface. When you lead with helping, you're activating what social psychologists call reciprocity bias. Even before they've accepted your help, the mere offer creates a subtle psychological debt. Their brain starts categorizing you as someone who gives value rather than someone who takes it. Subject line number 3, mutual connection suggested, I reach out. This one is all about social proof, but it's deeper than just name dropping. When you mention a mutual connection, you're instantly borrowing their credibility and trust.
You gotta be nuts too. And you're gonna need a crew as nuts as you are. Who do you got in mind?
Our brains take shortcuts when making decisions about who to trust, and third-party validation is one of the biggest shortcuts that we can use. This triggers what psychologists call the authority principle. We are more likely to respond to someone who comes recommended from someone we know, even if the connection is loose. Maybe you just connected on LinkedIn or met at an industry event. It still carries psychological weight. The beautiful thing about this subject line is that it works even with relatively weak connections. John from the Marketing Summit suggested I reach out, or saw you in Sarah's LinkedIn network and thought you'd be interested. These create just enough social proof to get your foot through the door. In our testing, name dropping increases open rates by 30 to 50% compared to completely cold approaches. But more importantly, it changes the tone of the entire interaction. Instead of being a random stranger, you're now someone with a legitimate reason to reach out. Here's a pro tip. You can expand your definition of mutual connection. Industry groups, LinkedIn networks, conference attendees, people who've engaged with the same content, all of these can serve as connection points if you frame them correctly. The key is being authentic about the connection. Don't make up relationships that don't exist, but also don't undersell legitimate connection points that you do have. I see people all the time who think they need to be best friends with someone to mention them. That's not how social proof works. Even weak social signals are indefinitely stronger than no social signals at all. Let me share a story about how powerful this can be. We were working with a consultant who was trying to break into the pharmaceutical industry. Cold outreach was getting nowhere. Pharma companies are notoriously skeptical of outsiders, but then he remembered he had attended a pharma conference 6 months earlier and had connected with about 50 people on LinkedIn afterwards. We started using subject lines like connected with you at the Pharma Tech Summit, thought you'd find this interesting. And John mentioned you working on similar challenges after we chatted at Pharmatech. Even though these were brief surface level interactions, they provided enough social context to get conversations started. His response rate went from basically 0 to 15% overnight. The psychology of social proof is so powerful because it's an evolutionary survival mechanism. Our ancestors survived by being part of tribes, and being recommended by a tribe member meant that you're probably safe to interact with. Those same mental patterns are still active today, even in business contexts. Subject line number 4. Notice your specific recent achievement or post.
Well, you certainly know how to compliment a woman. Now, if you'll excuse me.
Do you know who I am?
No, I can't say that I do.
I don't know how to put this, but I'm kind of a big deal.
This works because it shows you've done your homework. In a world of mass email blasts, anything that demonstrates personal attention stands out immediately. But it's not just about standing out, it's about appealing to fundamental psychological needs. We all have what psychologists call the spotlight effect. We want to be noticed and recognized for our achievements. When someone acknowledges our work, it triggers positive emotions. This makes us more likely to be receptive to them. This also demonstrates relevance and timing. You're not reaching out randomly. You're reaching out because something specific happened that makes your outreach timely and relevant. The data on this is incredible. Personalized subject lines get 85% higher open rates than generic ones, but personalization goes beyond just inserting their first name. True personalization shows that you understand their business, their challenges, and their recent activities. I've seen this work incredibly well after someone posts on LinkedIn, gets mentioned in the news, launches a new product, or even achieves something noteworthy. The key is striking while the iron is hot, reaching out within a few days of the achievement while it's still on top of their mind. Now, here's what most people get wrong about this approach. They make it too much about praising the person and not enough about connecting it to something relevant. Don't just say congratulations on the promotion. Say notice your promotion to VP of Sales. I imagine you're thinking about scaling the team for Q1. I've helped similar companies navigate exactly this transition. The psychological principle at work here is called the recency effect. Whatever happened most recently in someone's professional life is taking up mental real estate. They're thinking about it, processing it, and dealing with the implications. When your outreach connects to that recent event, it feels incredibly relevant and timely. We've had a client who sold marketing automation software, and they were struggling to get the attention of marketing directors at growing companies. Generic outreach just wasn't working, so we set up Google Alerts and social media monitoring to track when their target prospects posted about hiring, funding rounds, new product launches, or any other growth signals. Then we would reach out within 24 to 48 hours with subject lines like, notice your Series B announcement, bet you're thinking about scaling your lead gen, or saw your post about doubling the marketing team. We've helped similar companies avoid the common pitfalls. The response rate was insane, over 12% in some cases, but more importantly, the quality of responses was completely different. Instead of defensive, not interested replies, we got detailed responses about their actual challenges and timelines, which never happens to cold emails. People were literally describing their problems and asking for help, all because we timed our outreach to coincide with a moment when those problems were at the top of their mind. Subject line number 5, a 15-minute favor. This one taps into the fascinating psychology around reciprocity and commitment. It's based on something called the Benjamin Franklin effect. People actually like you more after doing you a small favor. It seems counterintuitive, but when someone helps you, their brain justifies that action by deciding you must be worth helping. The specific time limit is crucial here. 15 minutes feels manageable. It's not a huge commitment, which reduces the psychological barrier to saying yes. Your brain categorizes this as low risk, high intrigue. The question format creates curiosity about what the favor is, while the small ask makes it hard to refuse. Most people are naturally helpful, and when the cost seems low, they're more likely to engage. In our testing, question-based subject lines outperform statements by 23%. But this particular format does something special. It inverts the typical power dynamic of a cold email. Instead of you being the person asking for something, you're asking for help, which puts the recipient in a position of authority and expertise. This works especially well when seeking advice, introductions, or quick insights rather than trying to sell directly. I've seen consultants use this to book discovery calls, software companies using it to get product feedback, and service providers using it to understand market needs. The key is making sure your favor is actually reasonable and genuinely valuable to us. Don't use this as a trick to get sales calls. Use it when you actually need advice or insights that'd be valuable to your business. The psychology behind this is rooted in consistency bias. Once someone agrees to help you with a small favor, they're more likely to help you then with larger requests later on because it aligns with their self-image as someone who wants to help you. It's the same principle that makes those foot-in-the-door sales techniques work, but applied in a more ethical, value-driven way. Now, here's what most people miss out about these subject lines. They all hack fundamental decision-making processes that happen in milliseconds. First, there's a curiosity gap. Your prospect's brain makes a split-second decision when they see your subject line. These lines create just enough intrigue without giving everything away. They promise information or value without fully delivering it in the subject line itself. Second is pattern interrupt.
You're still here? It's over.
In a sea of amazing opportunities and Let's Connect emails, these stand out because they are conversational and not promotional. They don't sound like marketing emails. They sound like messages from real people about real situations.
A, B, C. A always B, B, C closing. Always be closing. Always be closing.
Third are relevance triggers. Each line signals that this email is specifically for them, not a mass blast. Personalization isn't just nice to have, it's a neurological necessity. Our brains are constantly filtering information for relevance, and generic messages get filtered out automatically. Fourth is social proof shortcuts. Our brains are cognitive misers. We use mental shortcuts to make decisions quickly and efficiently. These subject lines trigger positive shortcuts like trust, authority, and social validation. But here's the key insight that changes everything. Your prospect decides whether to open your email in 2-3 seconds. These subject lines are specifically optimized for that split-second brain process. When someone sees your subject line, their brain is asking 3 questions simultaneously. Is this relevant to me? Is this person trustworthy? And is this worth my time? These 5 subject line formats answer yes to all 3 questions in different ways. Let me talk about the advanced psychology that separates the professionals from the amateurs. These subject lines only work if you understand the broader context of how people process email. Timing matters more than most people realize. Tuesday through Thursday between say 10 a.m. and 2 p.m. typically sees the highest open rates to emails. This is not random. It's based on how people's attention cycles work throughout the week and throughout the day. Monday morning, people are overwhelmed and trying to catch up from the weekend. Friday afternoon, they're mentally checked out and thinking about the weekend plans. Early in the morning, they're rushing to start their day. Late in the afternoon, they're tired and less receptive to new information. But Tuesday through Thursday, mid-morning to early afternoon, that's when people are in their most productive, engaged state. They've settled into their work rhythm, they're mentally fresh, and they have the cognitive bandwidth to properly evaluate new opportunities. And hey, length matters too. Especially on mobile. 6 to 10 words or 30 to 50 characters performs best on mobile devices. This isn't about being brief for brevity's sake. It's about working within the constraints of how people actually read emails on their phones. Most professionals check email on mobile first and long subject lines get truncated.
Derek, I thought I told you to turn off your phone.
Turn off my phone?
If your key psychological trigger words are getting cut off, the whole thing falls apart. You also need to avoid spam triggers that can tank your deliverability.
But wait, there's more!
Words like free, guaranteed, urgent, limited time, well, they might seem persuasive, but they're so overused by spammers that email servers automatically flag them. Whether you're using Reply.io, AI Closure, Outreach, Salesforce, or any other platform, the psychology remains constant. The tools help with delivery and tracking, but the fundamental human psychology of decision making does not change. And this is where most people fail. They nail the subject line but completely drop the ball in the email body. Your subject line is making a promise and your email content needs to deliver on that promise.
How do you make your cigarettes?
We breed insect repellent tobacco seeds, toast it.
What? There you go.
But everybody else's tobacco is toasted.
No, everybody else's tobacco is poisonous. Lucky Strikes is toasted.
If your subject line says, quick question about your expansion plans, then your email better start with an actual specific question about the expansion plans. If you say, John suggested I reach out, you better mention John prominently in the first paragraph and explain the specific context of this suggestion. The psychology of expectation is powerful. When you set an expectation with your subject line, meeting that expectation builds trust. Violating that expectation, even slightly, creates immediate distrust and virtually guarantees a delete. This is why generic email templates don't work with these subject lines. You can't use notice your recent promotion and then send a completely generic pitch about your services. The cognitive dissonance is too strong. Your prospect immediately realizes that they have been tricked. The beautiful thing about understanding the psychology behind these subject lines is that you can create infinite variations that work on the same principles. Quick question about can become curious about your thoughts on, or quick clarification about, or brief question regarding. All of these trigger the same curiosity gap and completion desire. Can I help you can become thought you might need help with, or notice you might be struggling with, or want to help you solve. Same psychological principle, just slightly different packaging. The key is testing systematically. Don't just randomly try different subject lines. Test variations, then modify one psychological element at a time. Test different variations to create curiosity. Test different ways to demonstrate relevance.
Now, say my name.
Test different ways to build authority and track beyond just open rates. A subject line that gets great opens but terrible replies isn't actually successful. You want to optimize for the full funnel. Opens that lead to reads, that lead to replies, that lead to conversations, conversations that lead to sales. Let me share the biggest mistakes I see people making with these subject lines, because understanding what not to do is just as important as understanding what to do. First mistake, being too vague. Quick question by itself doesn't really work. Quick question about your business is better, but still not great. Quick question about your Q4 hiring plans, now we're talking. The more specific you can be while staying concise, the better it is. Second mistake, not doing the research to make it genuine. You can't use notice your recent post if you haven't actually looked at the recent posts. You can't say John suggested I reach out if John barely knows who you are. The psychology only works if it is authentic. Third mistake, using these as tricks rather than genuine communication. Look, these aren't magic formulas to trick people into opening emails that they shouldn't open. These are ways to communicate genuine value and relevance more effectively. Fourth mistake, not matching your email content to your subject line promise. If you promise a quick question, make it a quick question. If you mention noticing their achievement, actually reference that achievement meaningfully in your email. These subject lines work across industries, but they work even better when you adapt them to industry-specific languages and concerns. In tech, you might say, quick question about your OP. Quick question about your API integration challenges, or can I help you to reduce your churn this quarter? In healthcare, it might be, notice your expansion into telehealth, or quick question about your patient acquisition strategy. The psychology stays the same, but the specificity makes it more relevant and credible. Someone working in Fintech is going to respond better to subject lines that demonstrate that you understand Fintech challenges and opportunities. Once you understand these principles, you can scale them systematically. You're not just sending better individual emails, you're building systems that consistently apply psychological principles to every outreach. This means setting up research processes to identify specific trigger events for relevance-based subject lines. It means building systems to track mutual connections and warm introduction opportunities. It means creating templates that maintain psychological effectiveness while allowing for personalization at scale. The goal isn't to automate the psychology away. It's to automate the research and setup so you can apply these principles more consistently and effectively. So there you have it, 5 subject lines backed by psychology and data from over 1.2 million emails, plus the science behind why they work. But more importantly, you now understand the underlying principles so you can create your own high-performing subject lines. Test these in your next campaign and let me know how they work out for you. I personally read every comment and will help troubleshoot your approach if you run into any issues. If you want more psychology-backed marketing strategies like these, make sure to subscribe and hit the notification bell. And if you're serious about scaling your cold email results, drop psychology in the comments and I will share my complete email template framework that turns these opens into positive replies. Remember, in cold email, psychology beats creativity every time. Understand the brain, master the game. These aren't tricks or hacks. They are applications of fundamental human psychology to business communication. When you understand how decisions get made, you can craft messages that work with human nature instead of against it. The difference between a 15% open rate and an 85% open rate isn't luck or creativity. It's understanding and applying psychological principles that have been validated by millions of data points across thousands of campaigns. Now, go apply this knowledge and transform your cold email results.